Even though death is a natural part of life, it's still a subject that few take lightly. Although it eventually happens to everyone, it's understandably not something we all want to think about. Feeling uncertain about what happens to us in the afterlife, if there is an afterlife, is certainly worrisome. Still, given the inevitability of it all, there comes a point where having a sense of humor about it might just be the best tactic. After all, they say that laughter is the best medicine, right? These 16 people prove that it's possible to make people laugh even after you're gone with the help of some seriously humorous headstones. You've got to admit that they are pretty funny. People always said that Mitchell liked to tell it like it was, and he was no different once he made it to the afterlife. Sure, he was missing out on all the fun his friends are having on Earth, but at least he'd gone to the big party in the sky. Poor Esther would have rather been the one reading a headstone. Then again, that's probably how most people would feel after they've gone. Maybe Esther was reading that, only from a better place. Edith seemed to understand the concept that death is, or, in her case, was, inevitable. Her friends must have loved her for her crude sense of humor. Not only did they allow her to make a joke on her headstone, but to use a curse word too. It looked like old Joel was made of money and he didn't mind sharing the wealth once he passed on. You can't help but wonder whether he paid for his own headstone or if someone who stood to inherit his fortune coughed up the dough. Joseph Fostock was clearly a straight shooter while he walked the earth. He didn't put up with people's random BS while he was alive, and there sure as heck was no way he was going to put up with it when he eventually passed away. There's certainly a sense of morbid humor to Paul's headstone. Not only did he deliver quite the pessimistic message, but his message was also presented as a smiley face. At least he seemed happy about it. Social media self-promotion is definitely a first for a headstone. Kurt must have hoped that he'd gain more followers, even if he couldn't check his Twitter account. And whoever said you stop counting calories once you die? Not Kurt. Well, that took a rather interesting turn in a hurry. Unfortunately, aside from this cryptic message from beyond the grave, this headstone is unmarked. Their family members must have thought it would be more ominous that way. Poor George W. Jr. Regardless of the fact that he always knew that he would eventually pass away, and even though he had his entire life to prepare for that scenario, he still couldn't do anything to stop it from happening. Utterly tragic. Maybe someone should have given this person a nightlight to bring with them inside of their coffin. You hate to think that all they wanted was to get a little bit of reading done and they couldn't see any of the words on the page. Here's to hoping they had an audiobook. One would think that notorious gunslinger Robert Clay Allison, who even had a few run-ins with Wyatt Earp, would have met his maker whilst in a gunfight, but it was a broken neck from a tumble off a wagon that finally did him in. This silly epitaph sure did justice to his tough guy persona. This person went their entire life trying to break news to people who had already known what they were going to say. The only issue here is that they had to go to the great beyond to learn it. I never met a chocolate I didn't like. You and everyone else. Let's just hope that there's a gigantic all-you-can-eat chocolate bar in the afterlife. That would really show your dentist and doctor who told you not to eat the stuff. Good news. No one is expecting you to say anything anymore, ever again. You can go the rest of your afterlife not muttering a single sentence and everyone will completely understand. Take this moment to celebrate that you're officially off the hook. Catherine must have spent a large portion of her life looking for parking spots. While this particular spot probably cost her family a pretty penny, at least she didn't have to worry about alternate side parking. George must not have liked living very much. It's hard to imagine being so happy to go to the great beyond. With a crass epitaph like this one, you hate to think what the inside of his coffin looked like. You